that you tried out for as Han Solo, and you ultimately were responsible for Mark becoming Luke Skywalker.
Well, I'm not going to take credit for Mark. I'm not taking credit for Mark being Luke, but did I tell the story earlier? No. I went up for the surfer in Apocalypse Now, and I was 170 pounds of muscle in 1975, and I had blonde hair down to my shoulders. I had hair like Billy Cat, Great American Hero, and I was tan, and I wore thrift shop army clothes with my sleeves rolled up, and I had a green wife beater, our military issue wife beater on, and I had camouflage pants, and I went in for the surfer, and they said, I said, I surf, and they said, yeah, but you're too old. And I said, can I read for the cook? And then, you're too young. I said, I want to read for the cook. No, we've already got Freddie Forrest, and I idolized Freddie Forrest. So Freddie Forrest is playing the cook. So and I start to leave, and they go, wait a minute, Robert, there might be something for you across the hall. So I go across the hall, I see George Lucas's name. Now, Mark and I, we worship at the altar of George Lucas because of American Graffiti. It's a perfect film about my generation. It's a perfect film and a great soundtrack. And so George Lucas, and I go in there and I go, yeah, it's a space movie. I mean, that's how people were talking. Yeah, it's a space movie. Some other actor walked out. You know, and I heard the same thing about Alien, that when some of those actors went to London, they thought, oh, I gotta do a space movie. And then they saw the sets, and they said, boy, I've gotta up my game here. Well, I walked in the office, and some actor said, yeah, it's a space movie. And they said, yeah, and then people had sent me over from Apocalypse Now. They said, Robert might be right for Han Solo, and here's why. They'd just been turned down by Tom Selleck. That's who they originally wanted for Han Solo. They wanted Han Solo to be a lot older than Luke, because he was like the uncle that comes over at Christmas and smokes a joint in the backyard. That's how they kind of wanted it originally. And then Tom Selleck turned him down, and then, you know, they weren't finding anybody else. So they were just like looking around. They didn't know. Harrison was under contract to Francis Ford Coppola at that time, and they didn't know. I didn't even know if Harrison was in the mix. But I walked in, they looked at me, they took a Polaroid of me, and they said, you know, we think you're too young. So I'm walking out, and I look down, and I see one of the script for the lines for Luke Skywalker. So I look at it, I go, hey, Luke's, and I read it, and I read the breakdown, the description, and yeah. So I go home, my old beat-up Datsun 2000, smoking over Laurel Canyon, overheating. I get out, I put coolant in it, I stink like coolant. Pull up to my house, I walk in, and there on my couch with his cowboy boots off, drinking halfway through a six-pack of Heineken, watching the Mary Tyler Moore Show, is Mark. He's always at my house. He never paid me rent, but he never left. He's shooting a TV series right down the street, so he can walk. He's always over. And he turned me on to Monty Python. He turned me on to Lenny Bruce. He turned me on to Vincent Price horror movies. He's like a good pal, and he's the funniest guy in the world. But he had a bachelor apartment in Hollywood that got so funky that I heard he nailed the kitchen door shut, so his girlfriend wouldn't walk in there and see that he hadn't done dishes in 6 months. But I had the cool Hollywood apartment with my girlfriend, Jan. Jan wrote a little movie you might have heard of called The Lost Boys. My title, by the way, my title. But I just wanted it to be Lost Boys. No, the. Anyway, so I told Mark, I said, George Lucas is doing another movie. And Mark's like, what? And he jumps up, and I said, yeah, and I said, there's a kind of like this guy is kind of like a prince of space or something. I think that's how I thought of Luke then as like a young prince, and perfect for Mark, right? And Mark got on the phone to his agent, and the rest is history. Yeah.